So, hi everybody. I hope you're all doing very well today and you're all very welcome to today's webinar, and a big thank you for you all taking the time out of your day to join us. I will give it a few more minutes to actually get started, as you can see the numbers are still jumping there with people joining. But while we wait, as always, I'll give a quick introduction to who I am myself. So I am Nicole Cunningham and I am the Product Marketing Manager for Lean Library here at Technology from Sage, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. This webinar is actually our final webinar in our themed webinar series, which have been running over the last few months, which have been brilliant, covering various topics. And if you'd like to look back at any of them, all the recordings can be found on our website, and I'll drop the link to that in the chat in just a bit. But for today's webinar, I'm delighted to be joined by Rob Moore, our Business Development Manager here at Technology from Sage, and also a huge welcome to Ali Carroll from the University of East Anglia, who is joining us today. So that's fantastic to have you with us. Before I hand it over to Rob, I'll just go through a quick bit of housekeeping. So please check your audio and visual settings, and if somebody could just kindly pop into the chat or the Q&A box that you can see me or hear me and see the slides, that would be brilliant. And if you happen to not be fit to hear me or see the slides, I recommend leaving the webinar and rejoining, and Zoom will then prompt you to check your audio and visual settings, and hopefully that will do the trick. Always, please do connect with each other in the chat and get the discussion going. And with regards to questions, please feel free to ask any questions throughout the webinar via the chat or the Q&A box, and we'll answer them live or via the chat or at the end of the session. Perfect. Lastly, the webinar is being recorded today, and I'll send that all out to you in the coming days. So I think that is all for me. So I'll hand it over to Rob now to get started.
Thanks, Nicole. Sorry, I was just messing around with the with the chat then. Yeah, thank you all for taking the time to join us today. That's it's really appreciated. So in terms of what we're going to cover today as an agenda. So first of all, obviously, the webinar itself is themed around boosting usage of your collections within the library. So really, the way I've split this out is that first of all, I'm going to go back a bit really and take a bit of a look at Lean Library itself, a background on the extension, how it worked, and the principles by which it can obviously boost usage. Obviously, you know, the principles of the extension working that way make no sense unless anyone then does obviously download the extension itself. So we're going to jump over to Ali from UEA, who's very kindly agreed to join us today and is going to talk through a bit of a customer perspective from the UEA's point of view in terms of how they get people to actually download and use the extension itself. And then we're going to go back to me, and then I'm going to talk through in terms of what does that mean for boosting usage. And we're going to look at a couple of real world examples we've got in terms of boosting usage of collections. Obviously, as Nicole said, feel free to drop in questions in the chat and the Q&A during, and Nicole will pick up on those. Any that we don't get to or any that might be interesting to kind of talk through at the end, we will do that. So a little bit of time at the end for a wrap up and a Q&A. So yeah, that's kind of how we're going to break this down. So if we start, I wanted to do a little bit of background on just quickly on Technology from Sage. I know as a business, we're reasonably new. A lot of our products aren't, but you know, the business itself is reasonably new as a name. So just to give you some background, what our mission is to help to redefine and amplify the power of the academic library to advance teaching, learning, and research. So we do this through our various kind of products that we have that are on the screen now, some of which you may be familiar with. Talis Aspire, obviously a reading list management system, Talis Elevate, Lean Library, which is what we're going to talk about today, and then SciWheel as well, which is a reference management product. Lean Library itself, for those that don't know, it is a product that is a browser extension, so it requires the user, your patrons, whether that be students or researchers or academics, to actually download the extension. It works across all browsers, so Chrome, Firefox, Edge, whatever the your kind of users are using is absolutely fine. But yeah, that is the product we're going to talk about today. So moving on. We've done quite a bit of research over the years in terms of where actually patrons are starting their kind of journey in terms of yeah, trying to access resources, I guess. And really it is the reason that Lean Library was started, really. Obviously, librarians are buying all this excellent content that they have in these collections, whether that be journals or ebooks or databases or whatever it might be. But really, are the patrons themselves starting their research journey or starting their learning journey in the place we want them to be, which is obviously, you know, the library website or the discovery service or wherever it might be. Or are they coming from elsewhere? I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that in the majority of cases, they are coming from elsewhere. So we've got 3 of these librarians futures reports out now, and they can all be accessed and actually downloaded through the Lean Library website as well, where we surveyed librarians, we surveyed patrons across a number of institutions, say 1,500 you can see there. And we've conducted interviews with them. We've got contributions from some of our partners in terms of SpringShare site and companies like that. And we got data on user workflows and things. So yeah, quite kind of chunky reports or white papers that you can actually download and read through if you want to. I've just picked out some interesting information from them. The first of which is showing, well, really, where are the patrons at the moment? Where are they starting that discovery journey? So we've split this up into student and faculty. On the left, we've got students, so 26% at the minute across this survey are starting where we'd want them to be in the library kind of environment, whether that be discovery service or A to Z or whatever it might be. So that means obviously 74% of students are beginning discovery outside of the library, and then it actually narrows for faculty. So 21% of faculty starting their journey within the library setting. So that means 79% of starting outside of the library environment. If we're talking about Google Scholar, for example, 30% and 37% of faculty and 28% of students are beginning their discovery on Google Scholar. Our own data shows it's actually higher for that. So that's really just to say, you know, that as much as we would like all patrons to start that journey within the library environment, within the discovery service or wherever it might be, you know, we're very aware, and I'm sure you're very aware that that isn't always the case. And the way that Lean Library tries to help essentially is to direct that patron to your subscribed to content, to your collections, if they've started that journey outside the library environment. This is an interesting slide to share, actually, because I do want to kind of point this out, that it's some people perhaps think that patrons and maybe we're thinking about students in this instance wouldn't actually want the library more embedded in their workflow, and it's, you know, they start outside of the library because they're not interested in that, for example. But actually, what this report has showed us, contrary to that that students, they want the library more deeply embedded in their workflow. So 88% of patrons here, as it says, want the library more deeply embedded in their workflow. So this is not a tool that's going to be something that they are against or put off by for any stretch of the imagination. This is actually something that they would quite appreciate. So now I'm going to talk you through the principle of how the extension works, with a few examples and GIFs on these slides here, so I can talk you through, essentially what the extension does. Before I'll pass over to Ali, she can talk through getting people to actually download the extension as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is the access feature. Let's pop onto the next slide. So if you can imagine, I don't know, you've got some students in a class, and the lecturer said to them that there's some excellent content for this particular course on JSTOR, for example. Now, as much as you might like the student to go directly to the library A to Z, for example, to look up JSTOR and get the kind of authenticate that way, that might not be the case. This student may have just heard from a friend that there is some content on this site. So what that student is likely to probably do is go to Google and to stick in JSTOR in the Google search. If they do that, they may get taken to the JSTOR homepage. If they're not on campus because they're not getting IP authentication, for example, they may not know or may not recognize instantly that they A, have access, and B, how to actually access that content. So in this instance, when they land on the JSTOR homepage, the Lean Library pop-up comes up on the right-hand side, as you can see there. You click on Get Access. It funnels you through whatever the authentication system that the library wants you to be funneled through is, whether that be Easy Proxy or Shibboleth or Athens. You log in and then you get taken to your own institution's access within that particular site. So JSTOR in this example. So yeah, fairly simple way of kind of authenticating students into subscribed resources or your own collections on domains such as this. So that's the access feature and how that works. Now, specifically, we're going to look at journal articles and what we call the alternatives feature and how that works. So the first thing that the alternatives feature will do is try to look, if someone lands, let me skip to the next one. If someone lands, say they go through Google, find a nice article they'd like to read, lands on somewhere like ResearchGate, may not know that they have access to this particular article through the library holdings, then the Leading Library extension will kick in. What it's actually doing at this particular moment is looking up a DOI on that ResearchGate page. It's cross-referencing that DOI with your kind of link resolver details, essentially, looking at your collections. If you have access to that particular article, it pops up on the right-hand side, as you can see there. You click Access Article. If I needed to authenticate, I was probably logged in at this point. If I needed to, I would have had to. And then it takes me to wherever the subscribed version is that your library is subscribing to. In this instance, I'm being taken to brill.com. So yeah, very simply, picking out the DOI, checking if you've if there's a library subscribed version of it, and if there is, it's taking the student to that version. Probably should have said at the start, before I kind of started this piece, when the student is actually downloaded the extension, in case you're wondering kind of, well, how does it know what it, which version or which institution to point me towards? When the student is downloading the extension, they would pick their institution from a drop-down list at the point they download the extension. So that is how the extension is going to know which content to point them towards. Sorry, I should have said that at the start. The next thing it will do, because you know, ultimately today we're probably talking more about library subscribed resources if we're talking about boosting usage of collections. But there are other things that it will do if it can't find a subscribed version. And the next thing it will do is try to find an open access version. So in this instance, I'm on Google, I'm taken to a nature.com page. There is an open access version. What it's done in the first instance is check the DOI against your holdings. It can't find a version there. What it does after that is check the DOI against things like unpaywall on core to make sure there's no open access version. If there is an open access version, then I am taken directly there. So I can say in this instance, pop-up comes, open access versions found, get article, and I'm taken to the open access version here, and it's a full PDF. Lastly, and again, this is not exactly directly related to today, but I will just talk through what it will do. The third thing it will do if it can't find subscribed version or open access version is actually to offer up an interlibrary loan alternative. This feature doesn't need to be turned on. If you don't offer this at your library, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to turn this on, but the option is there. So in this instance, the user is taken or lands on this particular page of this article they want to read. It's looked for a subscribed version, can't find one, looked for open access, can't find that. The third thing it is going to pull up is an interlibrary loan. This is just a dummy form we've created here, but it will link up with whatever your interlibrary loan system is. And in doing so, actually, it will pull across the metadata from the page that you were on. So you can see it's kind of pre-populated everything here in terms of the DOI and things on this page. So that's the third thing it'll do. So yeah, that specifically is talking about journal articles. And as you can obviously imagine, if we're particularly thinking about the first way it's doing and you know, looking against your holdings, what you would like to see if you got lots and lots of people within the university downloading the extension is hopefully a bit of a boost in your in terms of people accessing your subscribed content. I will talk through ebook alternatives as well. It works in much the same way, but we can kind of go through it and take a look. And there is one, it's a slightly different thing to talk about as well with ebooks that I will go through. So ebook alternatives, in this instance, I'm landing on Amazon. This particular book is £130 on Amazon. But again, the extension in the background is checking, in this instance, it's going to be the ISBN rather than the DOI against your holdings. link for me to go through. I haven't showed the next bit there, sorry, but yeah, obviously I'm taken to the subscribed version of this particular title. The next thing it'll do, similarly to article alternatives, is that it will try to find an open access version. If it can't find a subscribed version, in the same way, click on that. It's going to take me to the open access version. Sorry, the resolution's gone really weird on this particular slide. I'm not sure why that is. The other thing that is worth pointing out in terms of ebooks or in terms of books in general is this check for print option. That is the next thing that the user could do as well. In this particular instance, and this is how this particular option works at the moment, users, if they're on a particular title on Amazon.com, and again, I apologize for the resolution on this slide, it's not great. But if users on this particular title on Amazon and they want to see whether this particular title exists in a library's print holdings, they can click on check for print and it will take that title and it will search for it within the discovery service. We are actually working currently, and lots of people are helping us test this, which is, thank you to, if any of you are on the call, it's very appreciated, is to actually be able to pull that information into the extensions. So instead of the user having to click on a check for print option, they will get told within the extension when it pops up whether they've actually got that in print. So there, I guess, we're mainly going to be looking at boosting usage of collections in terms of electronic versions. But, there could be some boost to actual print versions as well through this, this way with the ebooks. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say in terms of the principle of how the extension works. So hopefully that kind of makes sense in terms of what the extension is trying to do in the background, and the principle of how it may, give you a bit of a boost in terms of the usage of your collections within the library. What I want to do now is hand over to Ali, who's going to talk through what they've been doing at UEA and actually getting the users to actually download the extension so you can see that boost in usage. So over to you, Ali.
Thanks, Rob. Hello all, I'm Ali Cowell, I'm the Services Manager at the University of East Anglia. My team looks after kind of all things digital. So that includes the Talis reading list system, our interlibrary loan and document supply, our subscriptions and ebooks and databases, and their associated discovery routes. And as part of that, we consider Lean as to be one of our discovery tools for our users. Next slide, please. So this gives you an idea about our digital collections and a little bit about us. As you can see, we have quite a substantial digital collection and quite a bit of investment in that. So obviously we do want our users to be using it and be aware of it. We also have a digital first approach to our collection development, partly driven by restrictions on space with print, but also accessibility, being able to make sure that much of our content is available to as many of our users as possible. And a lot of our purchasing is actually driven by our Talis reading lists as well. So obviously being able to have things in a digital format to support the Talis reading list is also important to us. Next slide, please. So a bit of history about how we came to start using Lean Library. So we were fairly early adopters of Lean. We started using Lean in 2018, starting off with the standard suite of features, the access, alternatives, and assist functions. And our main driver for taking Lean was to help with two key problems that our users were experiencing. As Rob mentioned beforehand, most of our users were not coming through the walled garden of our discovery tools and our nicely curated catalogue with our wafeless URLs and all the rest of it. They were obviously finding their own ways to their research and going outside of that. And the key problems we were facing and most common queries we got from users was, how do I know if I should have access to this? Is it stuff that is available to me? and how do I actually get logged in and get access to it. And obviously Lean addresses both of those, both with being able to look up our holdings to determine whether or not we do have access to a particular resource, or whether or not we have access on a different platform, or and then once they've done that, is also getting them logged in via our easy proxy. More recently, we've also taken on the Lean Library Futures as part of our subscription, which includes the onboarding elements. So that allows us to give a little bit more at point of need additional support in terms of help sheets, additional guidance, and video help as well. You can see from the chart there that we have got roundabout, until recently, we had sort of a consistent sort of around about 4,000 active users. I didn't add the data beyond the December 23 because that's when the new extension came in, and I know the figures have sort of changed slightly since then. But you can see them have a bit of a spike round about October when we have the start of term, and then it's kind of steady, fluctuates a little bit as the year goes on. That little spike you can see there from autumn last year was where we did a bulk install of Lean onto our users, our public PCs within our IT labs and within the library. So obviously users are then not having to download it themselves. They were already available on our institutional PCs for them to use. So Lean was already at work helping them. Next slide, please. So in terms of trying to get users to download the extension in the first place, as Rob said, they're not aware of how great this tool is until it's actually there and working and they can see it. So we have used very traditional methods. So we've had posters and flyers and bookmarks and stickers around the library, and also on things like on our public PCs, on the saver screens, the sleep screens. Lean is promoted there as part of a rolling slide of other services that are promoted within the university. We do have a real concentration of effort at the start of year. We try to have Lean as part of that start of year checklist. So it's included in inductions, it's included in the kind of getting started at university checklist. So along with have you got your IT account? Have you got connected to Wi-Fi? Have you, do you know where the library is? Lean Library is part of that sort of checklist now. That have you downloaded Lean? We've also positioned Lean quite front and center on our library homepage. So on our library homepage, there is a call to action there to actually go and download Lean, and that includes our own customized download page. So we've been able to customize that for ourselves, and we've done our own onboarding video as well. So when the users do download the extension, they get a supporting video from us introducing them to the tool and how it's going to help with their research and studies. We've done social media campaigns with TikTok and Instagram. There's some examples there within the slide. These are actually done throughout the year. So even though we do have a bit of a push at the start of academic year, we do then scatter them throughout the year as well, just to remind users at sort of key points of the academic year that this tool is still available to you. Don't forget, if you haven't downloaded, how it can actually help you. And in a similar way, we do promote Lean at the help desk and when we have e-access queries from our users. So if Lean is something that will help solve the problem they're having, as we said beforehand, I don't know what I'm meant to have access to, I don't know how I'm meant to get logged in, we do promote Lean at that point as well. As I said beforehand, we've done a bulk install onto our IT labs, so it's already there for users to take advantage of. And a lot of the promotional materials are kept at our library help desk when queries, obviously, when users come to us for queries. Next slide, please. So thinking about plans for future promotion as we go forward into this next year, we do have, as part of our library strategy, principles around how we're going to be transforming the library. And you can see there we have these sort of 5 key principles. And even though lean will help support some of the other principles, like the always open, so always being available, the equity and inclusion, the main one for us is the library everywhere. So this idea that the library is there to support you in your user journey. We're not going to expect you to go through our traditional routes. If that's not your way of study, then the library, as best we can, will be embedded within your research journey. Hence the reason why I've invested quite a bit of time trying to get Lean to do as much as this as we can, by having assist messages, the onboarding. So when the user goes to a particular resource where we know that there's some additional support potentially needed, it might have an odd way of authenticating users, or users need to be registered. We then providing these additional materials at point of need through Lean. We're also trying to concentrate on trying to pull together resources. So rather having advice around digital skills scattered around different departments across the university, we're trying to pull those together, so we're not duplicating effort, and also it makes the user journey a lot easier if they just have one place where they know to get this extra help around digital skills. In the top right hand corner, you can see there, this is actually the IT's guide, kind of getting started and about studying remotely. And within that web page, we now have a bit about Lean, so the users know that if you're studying remotely, download Lean, it's going to help you. Similarly, on the bottom right corner, you can see a black little excerpt of a Blackboard course where we're trying to do a similar thing, pull all that information together, try and build some digital skills, a bit of digital confidence, and then signposting these additional tools like Lean that can really help our users. And then the big thing, which I'm really quite excited about, is we're having our first library digital fair in October this year, where we've invited various service providers to come along to the library and help us promote to not just our new undergraduates, but a bit of a refresher for our existing postgrads and also our academic staff, making them aware of all these amazing resources we have. And we're really pleased to say that technology from Sage are also coming to support the event, and they'll be promoting and giving demonstrations about the functions for Lean Library for our new undergraduates. And I think that's the end of the slides.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Lovely.
Checking, yes.
Thank you.
It is. Brilliant. Thank you, Ali. That's really, really appreciated. Thank you to you for taking the time to talk us through that. And obviously thanks to any colleagues as well that may have helped pull those slides together. It's really, really appreciated. Before I go into kind of the slide that's kind of on the screen now, which is going to talk through some kind of, yeah, I guess some real world examples in terms of boosted usage. There are a couple of things that you brought up, Ali, that I wanted to talk through quickly, actually. And one I didn't really cover during my kind of intro and during talking through how the extension works, but I think I should probably point out is that Lean Library really tries to, you know, not brand itself to the users as being kind of Lean Library, as it were. So we really try to be flexible in how the institutions themselves can brand the extension. So we want the users to effectively think and know that the extension itself and actually the resources they're being directed to, that's all been provided by the library. So in terms of the logos you can put on, you can change the color itself of the kind of buttons that are appearing to kind of match your own kind of institutional livery and things like that. So that is all kind of tied in towards trying to make it yeah, essentially a library extension for the user, not, you know, a Lean Library branded tool for the user, as it were. So yeah, there are lots of options within there for institutions to do that. He did also mention bulk installation. Yeah, just to say we can do that and we can help with that. There's lots of information on our customer support site in terms of how to do that for various different browsers and things like that. So yeah, that information is there. And obviously, lots of the other things that you mentioned there in terms of kind of branding and things like that, obviously, just to say that we're more than happy to help with that for any institutions, and that would tend to come through our kind of customer success team and our marketing team as well. So if there are any kind of current users on the call rather than people who don't use the extension, yeah, then please know, obviously, if you do want any help within in terms of promotion of the extension, then please get in touch with us, and we're more than happy to help. Yeah, so yeah, once again, thank you to Ali for that. It's really appreciated. So in terms of yeah, what does this mean in the real world? So I've got two examples here I want to talk through. So obviously we've looked at the principles behind how the extension works and what it's doing for the user. We've then looked at, well, how do you actually get the users to install the extension? Because obviously, you know, if they don't do that, then it's this last piece isn't going to work. Then this last piece is more looking at, well, what does this mean real world wise in terms of yeah, boosting usage of those library subscribed resources. So the first institution we're going to look at is Kennesaw State University in America. So this is a public research university, and it's in the state of Georgia. They've got two campuses, one in Atlanta, sorry, one in Kennesaw and one in Marietta. Big university, total enrollment is more than 45,000 students. I'm not sure the FTE number, but that's total enrollment number. It's the third largest university by enrollment in Georgia. So yeah, a big university, certainly. So what was the challenge for them? And I'm sure this would ring true through a lot of people on this call. So they try, obviously on multiple occasions, to promote their digital collection through the usual channels, whether that be social media, that kind of thing. But the feeling really is that there is a lack of awareness, and this probably goes back to one of my earlier slides in talking about, you know, where people are starting their discovery journey. The feeling is there is a lack of awareness of the digital collection holdings and all that amazing content that the library is purchasing for the students, and also a lack of awareness of how to access that content as well. What this meant is it led the Kennesaw State University team to try and find a solution that simplified that and effectively saved time for those faculty and students in terms of getting access to those resources. So what does this mean? Well, they introduced Lean Library Access, which is you know, the version of the extension we've mainly been talking about in July 2022, and they promoted the tool through a mixture of passive and active promotion. Lots of the things we probably talked about there, so website banners, campus announcements, FAQs, that kind of thing. And what happens? So this is data here is looking at link resolver requests, essentially. So as I saw on the slide before, they actually purchased and promoted the extension in July 2022, which is about here on the graph. So you can see the kind of number of link resolver requests spiking hugely after that point. I've done some comparison on the right-hand side here between the same month in the previous year and the month in 2022 after that point in July, at which they kind of, yeah, bought and started promoting the extension. So you can see August 2022 versus August 2021, you're looking at kind of a 400% increase. September 22 to 21, you're looking at 200 and nearly 300. So roll in the kind of yeah, 2, 3, 4, even 5, 600% increase in terms of link resolver requests following the introduction of Lean Library. I've done here, I mean, this is a bit of you may argue a bit of a stretch, but if we're looking at cost per access, if you assume those link resolver requests are all article requests, they're not going to be. I know some of them are going to be ebook requests, but if you assume they are, and you assume that your cost per article at this point here in 2021 was £1, then over in 2022, after the introduction of Lean Library, you'd looking at a reduction down to about 25 pence in the cost per article. Yeah, metric here. So yeah, you can show a huge difference there. This is obviously, as I said, done the assumption they'd all be journal article requests. That's not going to be the case, obviously. The second example I've got, so this one is slightly different actually, and I'm sure most people who kind of on the call or have joined the call are from academic institutions. There may be some from healthcare or from yeah, whether that be NHS trusts or whatever it be across the world. So yeah, I just want to talk through a slightly different example because it isn't just in academia. This can be useful. So this one is from NHS Mersey Care. For those of you not from the UK on the call, they are an NHS trust, which is essentially how the NHS is split up across the UK. This is the Community and Mental Health Services Trust, which means they've got lots and lots of sites. We're not talking about an acute trust here with, you know, one giant hospital or two big hospitals in the trust. We're talking lots and lots of sites, lots of staff split over those sites. And the trust itself serves more than 11 million people across the region that it serves. The main job of the trust is promote mental and physical health and well-being. So what's their challenge? They're a very, very small library team. You're talking 4 librarians in total to cover those 7,000 staff. Those staff, as I said, are spread across 100 different sites. And so their communication with their staff is quite difficult. Generally within hospitals, clinical staff do and don't can be tricky, but most of them won't have access to a computer during their working day. And a lot of research and study is done from home. So off-campus access or off-site access is kind of essential in this instance. They use Open Athens for authentication, but it's often difficult navigating the user to the correct resource or search, or the search function is tricky. A little comment at the end there is that the user will often default to natural searching. So this is what we've been talking about, really, searching through Google, searching through Google Scholar. And certainly if we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about searching through PubMed a lot as well. So what was the solution? Obviously, Lean Library was introduced, and it helps in lots of ways, actually. It doesn't particularly matter if the user is searching naturally, as we've been through, using the internet in the way they normally would. What they actually did is made sure that, we're talking about bulk installation, they made sure that Lean Library is installed on every PC in the trust. So the clinical staff that were accessing the PCs in trust did have Lean Library on that trust PC. What this really helps with is it means that obviously it gets the branding, it gets the recognition out there of the extension. So hopefully if the staff are seeing it on the PC in the trust, and in the same way in a university, if the users are seeing it on their own machines on campus, then hopefully that is going to prompt them to install it on their own computers because it's been helpful for them. Yeah, as I said there, it's expanded their reach and potential users are more aware of the library's presence in the organization. This is probably a little bit more relevant for healthcare and certainly in the UK for the NHS. I've worked with the NHS kind of for years in various roles, and unfortunately for them, unfortunately for libraries within the NHS, they're not often given the kind of, the nicest part of the building or whatever it might be. So it's often not known within the trust that they actually have a library. So it really helped them to get their kind of reach out there to their potential users. So the result, it's not quite kind of Kennesaw State in terms of the percentage. We're not looking at 600% increase, but they saw overall 40% increase in resources from pre-Lean Library to post-Lean Library. Some big increases there in kind of EBSCO, Elsevier and Wiley. And that's a nice quote there from one of the librarians, that the product has exceeded their expectations in terms of increased user satisfaction, increases in Open Athens sessions across the trust. So yeah, some nice kind of a nice quote there from the librarian in terms of how it's helped them. So yeah, there's some a couple of kind of real world examples for you there. One from a big academic institution, one from an NHS trust, just showing what does that mean in terms of usage of the actual collections and what increase am I likely to see. Just to show you lastly, so there is I haven't gone in at all to the kind of the dashboard or the kind of librarian backend to Lean Library because it's not been kind of not needed to on this call necessarily, but there is, just to know that there is a kind of a dashboard for librarians to access where you can kind of have a play around with what's been set up there. We've not really talked through assist messages, which I know Ali talked a little bit through in her presentation, but that allows you to kind of set up custom messages on any domain you want to, really. So that can all be set up within the dashboard. Obviously, the things like the access and the alternatives. At the point you were introduced Lean Library, we could do all of that for you in terms of the setup. But you do have the access yourself within the dashboard. And this is just to pull through kind of statistics, just to show you, well, okay, is it going to tell me what I need to know in terms of actually who's looking at these article alternatives? So yes, we can give you the numbers in terms of views of the article alternatives and clicks, and the same for kind of ebooks and interlibrary loans and things like that. This is obviously purely looking at the Lean library data. Your own kind of link resolve request data and that kind of thing, you would need to obviously look at yourself, because we don't have visibility of that. But obviously we can show you kind of from a Lean library point of view within the dashboard, we can show you what your end users are seeing and what they're clicking on as well. And I think that kind of brings me to the end of what I wanted to say. I'm just going to check with Nicole that there's nothing been asked that you haven't been able to answer in the chat.
Yeah, there's been no questions, but if anybody will give it a minute to see if anybody does have questions, you can ask in the chat box or the Q&A box. Okay, it doesn't look like anything's coming in, but if you do have any questions afterwards, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. And yeah, thanks very much, Rob, today for doing that presentation, and for Ali joining us, giving that really insightful presentation on how you promote Lean Library at UEA. And thank you all for taking your time from your day to join us. And I'll send a follow-up email, including the recording, to you all afterwards. And if you could just take 1 minute to fill in the survey that will come up on your screen once you leave the webinar, that will be great. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your Thursdays.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.